The college football regular season is over and it is conference championship game week. We're going to find out what teams are going to be playing for the national championship and how this impacts the college football playoff rankings. Now, we did expect chaos last week in the last week of the regular season and we got none. So the conference championship games have to give us something, right? And you might be saying, George, come on now. If you're in the conference championship games, you got to be a lock for the college football playoff, right? Absolutely not. There are some chaos scenarios for the ACC. And if you are Indiana and Ohio State, yes, you're sitting pretty. If you're Texas Tech, you're sitting pretty. But you got BYU trying to secure a spot. Alabama, if they get beat up pretty bad, might they fall out of the top 10? Which is really where you have to be. And then what happens in a chaos scenario if the ACC champion is Duke and they beat Virginia? Lord have mercy. So we got a lot to cover today, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I'm George Wrighster, former NFL player, college football analyst for CW, and part of the fastest growing college football YouTube show, and it is because of you guys. So thank you for being one of us. We will get started where we always do. We're going to get started in the Big Ten. We're going to get started with Ohio State versus Indiana, Big Ten Championship. Ohio State is favored in this game by 5.5 points. They expect it to be pretty low scoring because the total is under 50. And Ohio State, they come in. They are 12-0. They've already beaten Texas. They've beaten Michigan. They didn't necessarily have the toughest schedule in the whole world, but they have smothered everybody that they have played against. And they're allowing under 8 points per game on the season. Then you got Indiana. And Indiana, even though that this is their second year in the college football playoff, people really haven't gotten comfortable with Indiana being a good football team. Because last year they lost to Notre Dame in the first round of the playoffs, and they were called frauds, right? Despite Notre Dame getting to the national championship. So Indiana's history is factoring into how people see them. Well, that and their pitiful non-conference schedule. But they are 12-0. And they actually had a statement road win at Oregon. And then they closed the season with a 50-point humiliation of Purdue. And every time their head coach, Curt Cignetti, every time he gets a chance to beat somebody up, he absolutely does. Now, this game, there will be no weather involved like the Ohio State-Michigan game because it is at Lucas Oil Stadium. I got a chance to go there last year. Wonderful stadium in terms of getting a chance to be able to play for a championship caliber game. There's no weather involved. Hey, bro, all conditions are perfect. No excuses. Now, it is essentially a home game for Indiana, but Ohio State is very close as well, and their fans travel. They will have no shortage of people there. Now, historically, Ohio State, they own this. It's not even nothing to talk about historic. But the thing about the old days, to quote The Wire, them is the old days. And now you have what could be three of the best 5 teams in the country from the same conference in the Big Ten. I know SEC people are used to that, but now times have changed, even though the SEC is a deeper conference right now. But let's look at coach versus coach, where we always go. Curt Cignetti versus Ryan Day. Now, over at Ryan Day and Ohio State, even though that they won the national championship last year, his pressure never goes down. He's the highest winning percentage coach in college football history. And they just took their rival Michigan, who they had beaten them 4 straight years behind the woodshed. This dude has transitioned from offensive coordinator. You know, the guy that, he was born on third base. He inherited Urban Meyer's machine. And now he's just, but then he won it. Now what you going to say? Now on Curt Cignetti's side, this is a serial program builder. Elon, James Madison, and now Indiana. And he does it in quick order. Like, I can't even imagine what this dude could do with 5-star recruits because he's finding a way to have talent evaluation and the coaching to be able to play them at a extremely high level that most people could never. And that's the thing that you have to appreciate there. And remember, he just got a big time contract, like $90-some million fully guaranteed. And I think that he's in a different situation because Ryan Day's $90 million guaranteed. There's expectations of not a national championship, but national championships. With Dan Lanning's contract at Oregon, it's not for national championships. It's just for one right now. And in Indiana, what is his contract for? Raising the floor. It's not even for a national championship. If they get in the playoff almost every single year, playing a national championship over the life of this deal, Indiana would be fine. They would be happy. Then they would start getting into that. Man, we got to win a national championship. But you got to get to that level first, and they are approaching that very, very quickly. And from a game management thing, right? Ryan Day tends to be very conservative with fourth downs in big games. While you got Curt Cignetti, he's showing he going to lean into the analytics. No risk it, no biscuit. He's like, I'm not even supposed to be here. There's no lose for him. Everything is a win. And in one score spreads, I'm talking about them 1 to 2 high leverage calls that could actually swing the game. And not only just swing the game, but swing the Heisman vote, whether it's Julian Sayin, who's going to be probably a finalist. You got Fernando Mendoza, who people like, and obviously CFP seeding is going to matter as well. Now let's look at these quarterbacks because you got Julian Sayin and you got Fernando Mendoza. Julian Sayin is a kid I got a chance to see in high school. We got a chance to play against my son when they played against Carlsbad. People talk about, all this. Listen, when Julian Sayin gets off the bus, nobody's saying wow. But when he plays quarterback, you're saying wow. His superpower is decision-making and accuracy. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the entire world. He's not going to run all over the place like an athlete. But when you're talking about good decision-making, leadership, and accuracy, he checks all the boxes. Over 3,000 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 78% completions. He is incredible. Just torched Michigan in the snow, 19 for 26, 3 tubs on the road. Come on, man. This dude's incredible. Then you got Fernando Mendoza, 2,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions at 72%. Then he adds another 243 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. 38 total touchdowns, leading the Big Ten in TD passes and sitting at or near the top of the Heisman odds. I'm just telling you, I'm excited about this quarterback matchup in and of itself because this is going to shape some of the Heisman talk. Now let's look at Indiana's offense versus Ohio State's defense. I've had a chance to study both of these extensively. Here is Indiana's offensive profile. 44 points a game, 7.1 yards per play, top 10 nationally in yards and top 3 in scoring. That's an absolute juggernaut of an offense. Now their run game has almost as many yards as their pass game, 2,700, almost 2,800. 5.6 yards to carry, 29 rushing touchdowns. And they are led by Roman Hemby. And then the other running back, Black, as well, has about another 700 yards. That is a true 1-2 punch. And then they convert over 55% on third down. That is incredible. People have wondered how to stop Indiana's offense because all of those numbers I gave you sound like an air raid, all of that stuff. No, Indiana is different. Indiana lives on efficiency. That's what they live on. They live on winning first down. They do not want to get into third and long. It is a tough situation for them with their offensive line as well. They want 5 yards on first down, 6 yards on second down, 3 yards on first down, 4 yards on second down. They want to stay in third and 3 or less because now it gives them a tremendous level of advantage because you don't know whether it's a run or it's a pass. Their backs are dynamic, and you have to honor Fernando Mendoza in the run game as well because he will take off and keep it. No, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he is good enough to hurt you. He is good enough to pick up multiple first downs, and then you just be sitting there like, we had him. And then all of a sudden you're looking up and you're like, our defense is actually playing good, but that's what it was like watching Oregon versus Indiana this year. But now let's look at Ohio State's defensive profile. They're only allowing 7.6 points per game and under 220 yards per game. Like we're talking, Alabama, Georgia in the Nick Saban, Kirby Smart heyday, like 2022 and previous. That level of dominance with the Big Ten trench size. Like opponents are literally converting about 21% on third down, and a lot of it is because of Arvell Reese, that linebacker. He is the kid is phenomenal. He is incredible. And then you got Caden Curry. It's a deep rotation that just held Michigan to 163 yards and 1.9 yards per carry. Now, when you look at Indiana's offensive line versus Ohio State's front, Indiana has basically bullied everybody, basically. But Ohio State's front feels like that if they take some lessons from the Oregon game, because these two teams are built very similar, and learn some lessons there, this is an opportunity. Because the thing that we don't know is if Ohio State is a generationally good team like the 2019 LSU, '01 Miami, '04 UCLA, I'm sorry, USC. Are they in that vein? 2022 Georgia? Are they like that? Or are they a team that just hasn't been fully tested yet? We're going to find out in this Big Ten championship. And Indiana's wide receivers who had Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., these are good wide receivers. And Caleb Downs and Denzel Burke, and the rest of this crew. And this is going to be a significant challenge for Ohio State secondary. Caleb Downs, Igbinosun, and the linebackers are going to have to be very good as well. Sonny Styles as well. They're going to have to be disciplined with their eyes. This is a strength-on-strength game. Now let's look at Ohio State's offense versus Indiana's defense. Because Ohio State's offense is averaging 37, 38 points a game, 430 plus yards per game. It is a balanced attack despite the absolute weapons and monsters on the outside. Because their running back, young kid, Bo Jackson, just went for 117 rushing yards and 49 receiving yards versus Michigan. And you can see him coming out of that freshman shell and being like, I'm a sophomore now. I'm experienced. But it is Ohio State's weapons on the outside that makes everything else grow. I mean, it just does. Jeremiah Smith. We know what that monster, that freak is. Carnell Tate, same thing. Absolute freak, route running, hands, all of that. And then Brandon Enos as well. 3 legit NFL wide receivers. That's just the truth. And they are the thing that makes the defenses have to play with 2 safeties at all times. And that makes it difficult to stop the run. If Julian Sayin were a runner, this team would be literally unstoppable on offense. Indiana's defense, they give up about 11 points per game and only 268 yards per game. That is top 10 in total defense and top 5 in scoring defense. And this run defense, they're only allowing 83 yards per game and 3.1 yards per carry. That's 4th in the nation. They choke ground games and force opponents to beat them on the outside. And on the back end, they not letting you down there either because they got 16 interceptions on the year. Lewis Moore got 5 picks, and D'Angelo Pons he ain't tall, but he's a sticky corner that has made an all Big Ten team. But now the question is, can Indiana get pressure rushing for? Because one of the things that Indiana does very, very well is that they disguise coverage and they simulate blitzes. This is the only game this year where Dante Moore and Oregon's offense really got nerfed because they were able to create confusion with the offensive line. They were able to create confusion with the quarterback, and he was hesitating. And Julian Sayin, who is a redshirt freshman, we gonna see if he has, enough in his toolbox after a year of starting to be able to deal with that. And can Ohio State run the ball at a high enough level to then let Julian cook? And Indiana's defense, they are way better than the casual fan thinks. But Ohio State has seen top defenses already. Michigan's defense is well thought of. Parts of Texas is highly thought of. But they found answers late in the Texas game. And if Ohio State's offensive line protects like it did in Ann Arbor, the Hoosiers are going to live in a bend but don't break situation. And then it is going to be who can work it out in the red zone. But now let's look at the X factors. Because you got, for Indiana, turnover margin and red zone efficiency. Because Mendoza's only thrown 5 interceptions, and the offense only has 6 picks overall. And the defense has gotten 16 plus picks all by itself. That's a lot of extra possessions over 16 games. Because when they get you down, they just squeeze the boa constrictor. And for Ohio State, it is going to be third down dominance and their depth. Because the offense converts over 52% on third, and the defense only allows 21%. That's how you create extra drives, force punts. But can you do that to Indiana is the question. I am going to take in this game, my prediction, I am going to take Ohio State -5.5. I do believe that this is a close game. And Indiana, and I always talk about how many paths does a team have to winning. Indiana has multiple paths to winning this football game. The gate is not just narrow for them. So there is a world where they win, but I am going to take Ohio State in this game. But they're going to get their first dogfight of the season. Now, let's move on to the SEC Championship. The 1 seed, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And you're like, wait, what? Isn't Georgia ranked higher? Yes, but because of all the tiebreakers, because Alabama beat Georgia, Alabama's the 1 seed. And then they're playing the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC Championship. Georgia is favored in this game by 2.5 points. And Kirby Smart has an Alabama problem. But the total, because he knocks the doors off of everybody except for Alabama. Now, the total in this game is only 47.5, which means that they expect this to be a low-scoring game. Georgia's only loss, like I said, was to Alabama, but it was in Athens. And then you got Alabama going into this game 10-2. 7-1 in the SEC. They just escaped Auburn 27-20. Their only losses are to Oklahoma and an ugly loss to Florida State. I mean, neither one of them losses actually looks very good because Oklahoma actually looks like the worst team that is poised to be in the college football playoff right now. They got no offense to speak of. The defense, on the other hand, electric. No weather issues here because it's in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the same place that Georgia got to play last week. So it is going to be a familiar territory, place they played so many times. It is like a home game for them. So, and really, Alabama's played there a lot as well. Their Sugar Bowl, these are home games for them. But Kalen DeBoer is new to these situations, not new to a championship game because he's been in the national championship. He's new to it at Alabama. Alabama has dominated this series historically. It ain't even close. This is the 5th SEC title meeting between these two since 2010. Bama, Georgia is the default SEC championship setting. So the narrative in this game is Georgia is the more complete team on paper. Alabama owns the recent scoreboard and already did this once in 2025. Is this revenge or is this confirmation? So these two head coaches, you got Kalen DeBoer, who we're not even sure if he's going to be Alabama's head coach next year because there are rumors about Penn State. Penn State still ain't hired a head coach yet versus Kirby Smart, who has been stable. He's there. Granted, he's at Georgia and there's no other job to take, but still. Kalen DeBoer, offensive savant, ridiculous career record, 113-16. Now in year 2 at Bama, got him 10-2, poised to go to the college football playoff unless they get their doors blown off, I believe. This is Kirby Smart's 10th season, 105-19 overall, back-to-back national championships, multiple SEC titles. This is just another week in the office for Kirby. This is his 4th SEC title game in 8 years. Come on, man. He's the standard for college football coaches now that Nick Saban is gone. This is one of the best chess matches in the sport right now because you got DeBoer's kind of air raid spread wizardry versus Smart's pattern matching and NFL caliber defense. And you can literally sell a segment around who blinks first, DeBoer's aggression or Smart's patience, because DeBoer is going to go for it on 4th down. He is going to be aggressive. And we saw that even in the Auburn game when you thought that they would kick a field goal inside the 10 to go up 3 points. He was like, no. It's 4th down. I don't care. I'm not giving them a shot. They're going to have to be aggressive. Love that. The quarterback battle, though. Ty Simpson versus Gunnar Stockton. Ty Simpson has been good this year. 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 66% completions, about 255 a game. We're talking borderline all SEC numbers. But in the Iron Bowl, only threw for 122? But he did have 3 touchdowns and then the game winner on 4th down late. He is not Caleb Williams in terms of athleticism when he was at USC. That's not him. But he is tough. He is poised. He is a winner. He's a dog. So we're going to see if he can win them a championship because they can't run the football very well. And he's going to have a lot on his shoulders. Now, Gunnar Stockton over there at Georgia, 2,500 passing yards, not a ton of yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks on 70%. And he adds another 403 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. That is efficient dual threat numbers who can move the chains and he can hurt you on scrambles. Now, he actually had a 4 touchdown game versus Texas and 300 plus yards versus Tennessee on the resume. So we know that the ceiling is high when Georgia cuts him loose. And then that throw he made versus Tennessee on 4th down, Lord have mercy, that is onions, boy. That is big onions. That is wheelbarrow size onions. And so we know this is a dude that will show up when you need him the most. Ty Simpson over here, he's putting up more, just raw volume. But Stockton actually might be more valuable to how his offense functions, especially on the ground, because this feels like a who handles 3rd and 7 better kind of game more than just a shootout, stat fest sort of game. So then let's look at Alabama's offense versus Georgia's defense. Because Alabama's offense, they're spreading it around. Now, Jam Miller and the run game, they got going a little bit toward the end of the season, but he did get banged up a little bit. Then you got Isaiah Horton, who's emerging as a real red zone threat. A 3 touchdown kind of deal. Kalen DeBoer and his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, they absolutely love tempo. They're going to stretch you horizontally. They're going to stretch you with RPO rules, switch releases. And if I had one play to win a football game, to win a national championship, there is not a head coach that I want more than Kalen DeBoer. He always has one trick in the back pocket when you need it. It worked at Washington against Washington State. He did it at Oregon. He did it against Auburn the other night. If there's one play that you got to get to win a game, I like him to do it. When Alabama's in rhythm, they look like a top 10 offense in the country. But the problem is staying in rhythm in this run game is going to be extremely difficult, especially if Jam Miller is not able to play in this game. Because for Alabama, you got Daniel Hill, who might have to come in and take a bigger load, and he's a completely different style of running back. But let's look at Georgia's defense, though, because they are still amongst the national leaders in scoring defense because they're only allowing 16, 17 points per game. Deep, NFL-heavy front seven, and they're just continuing to get better as the season goes on. And they handled Georgia Tech this last week, and they have been suffocating a lot of times during the year outside of, like the Tennessee game. But they will give up explosive plays with communication breakdowns. And that is what Kalen DeBoer is able to do with Jeremy Bernard and the rest of these wide receivers, Brooks, and, because they are going to do switch release. It is all about communication, passing things off. And if you can't get a pass rush, it is going to be a problem. Now, Ryan Williams, who is on the cover of NCAA 26, only has 40 catches for under 600 yards this season and 4 touchdowns. This is not what he expected. This was not what anybody expected. He was on the bench at the end of last game. No explanation why. He's been playing less and less. So the question is, what's really going on there? And then also, can Alabama's offensive line, can they handle Georgia's simulated pressures and their creepers on 3rd down? Because if Simpson is seeing clean pockets, Georgia's defense is going to have problems. And in the red zone, Horton versus Georgia's DBs inside the 10, it has been a serious problem. And the scheming with Jeremy Bernard and the rest of the crew too, And if Georgia doesn't win early at the line of scrimmage, Bama has shown that they're comfortable with throwing fades, slants, crossovers in tight space, everything. But here's the truth, though. It's wild, but Bama's passing offense is actually less trustworthy, like probably the least trustworthy part of their offense. Because in normal games, Kalen DeBoer actually gets in a big spot. And then Simpson is actually, hitting highly difficult red zone throws. And Georgia has to be willing to, let them nickel and dime and be in between the 20s and then hold them out and make them kick field goals. Now, let's look at the other side of the ball. We got Georgia's offense versus Alabama's defense. Because Georgia's offense is led by Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. And this is more QB-centric than the Stetson Bennett era, where it had way more quarterback run, way more RPOs. And he's got over 2,500 yards passing and, 400 yards rushing with 28 touchdowns. And they still have big body wide receivers and a tight end pipeline as well. Now, it is not peak Bowers era. It is not. But we can't sit up here and try to poo-poo what Georgia has going on in their tight end room, because I will tell you, I like Oscar Dell. I like him and the lucky kid too. Like them. They're doing a very good job with these dudes. And this is actually what makes their offense hard to stop, is when you have tight ends that can block and run and catch, it is tough. But how do they stack up against Alabama's defense? Because Alabama's defense is allowing roughly 16 and a half points per game. They are top 15 nationally and still built on long corners, twitchy edge dudes, and smart safeties. That makes it easier to win football games. And in the Iron Bowl, this defense was actually dominant early, but Auburn's offense is absolutely putrid this year, because they only had 26 yards on their first 5 drives before the Alabama defense gave up some explosives. One of them got called back as well. So this game is going to come down to quarterback run, scramble contains, and everything in between there. But this is an old school SEC matchup. But the X factors in this game for Alabama, it is explosive play volatility, because Bama has shown that they can both create and give up explosives. Auburn hit him for, 260-plus yard bombs. And if Georgia hits similar shots, the Crimson Tide, they are absolutely in trouble. But DeBoer is also going to follow a script of 3 to 5 shot plays early. And if 2 of them land, the script absolutely flips on this football game. Because Georgia's offense is good, but it ain't built to chase multiple scores all game. Now, the Georgia X factor is defensive red zone performance, because both defenses relatively, allow relatively few points per game. But in a slower paced, tight spread game, red zone stops are going to equal wins. And Georgia's pattern matching and linked in the secondary, it actually should be built to force field goals. And they are going to absolutely be tested in the secondary. With KJ Bolden, CJ Allen at linebacker, Raylan Wilson. They're going to be tested. Aguero, they're going to be tested. And on the offensive end, Zachariah Branch is going to have to make some plays. He is going to have to. Kobe Young, but it is Zachariah Branch, 68 catches, Kobe Young, 23. And you're like, how's this happen? So it is going to be take away Zachariah Branch, because Georgia does not have multiple wideouts the way that Alabama does, at least the way that they use them. My prediction in this game, Georgia finds a way to win this football game. And they win it by 2 scores. I know it's only a 2.5 point spread. This feels like Georgia has adjusted. They are going to, and we're going to get some drama out of the college football playoff. So I am here for all of it. Every single solitary bit of it. And I know that Alabama fans are going to be frustrated and upset. How could you pick against us? Go prove me wrong. Now, let's get into the Big 12 championship with who I believe is the most underrated team in college football and one of the most disrespected teams in college football. We got Texas Tech versus BYU. They both come into this game 11-1, and we have not seen an 11-1 team be outside of the top 10 going into conference championship game week in the college football playoff era yet. But BYU, here's your opportunity. So Texas Tech comes in. They came in this week number 5 in the AP poll. And last week they were number 5 in the CFP. And they just absolutely boat raced West Virginia last week, 49-0 on the road to finish the regular season. And they have not won a Big 12 title in 30 seasons in the league. And then you got BYU. They're 11-1. They're a Power 4 team. And this whole talking point is about the respect of BYU because their only loss is to Texas Tech. Granted, it was a pretty big blowout, but still, they have dominated the rest of their football games. And Texas Tech, though, blowouts basically all year around. And all 11 wins are at least by 20 points. Think about that. Their only losses to Arizona State when their quarterback, Barron Morton, was hurt. That's it. That is the only negative thing that you can say about them. And for BYU, they beat Cincinnati, who's a pretty good football team, Houston, who's been in the top 25, UCF, and others to get to this 11-1 record. Their resume is very solid, but the committee clearly does not trust them at this point in time. But this is their opportunity to prove it and get not one, but 2 Big 12 teams into the college football playoff. And the thing I told you was that BYU's lone loss, that was a 29-7 absolute flop at Texas Tech. Now, granted, it was at Texas Tech. And they were outgained 368 to, like 250. And they turned it over 3 times. You can't win football games like that. But you cannot just discount a team because of the one loss, right? Right, Texas fans? You lost to Georgia by 25, but we're supposed to just, because you beat some other good football teams, pretend like that didn't happen? Just saying. But head-to-head, you got Joey McGuire, who was on an absolute heater, who I believe came into the season with some of the most pressure, versus Kalani Sitake, who might be deciding whether he's going to go be Penn State's head coach. They just, I don't understand it. But that's another story. It's not my life. But he's never even been on the East Coast. He's a poly guy in Utah at his alma mater who's paying him well. People have other dreams and goals in their life. It is not for me to determine. But Joey McGuire, in his 4th season, has really turned Tech into a tough, physical, modern college football program with the help. The billionaire Cody Campbell, good players helps. And this is the best Tech season in 17 years. And he's got them in like squarely 100% going to the college football playoff. And they're leading the Big 12 in both scoring and total offense, while somehow also fielding the league stops defense. And Texas Tech, and I know that this is similar to Indiana, in where people aren't feeling comfortable with seeing Texas Tech ranked that high. They got to be frauds. They're not quite as good. Are you going to learn today this defense is for real? This defense is not playing around. I mean, I don't even know how to get you to understand this because a lot of SEC people, Big Ten people, they don't watch the Big 12 in depth. But when you watch this Texas Tech team play, they are scary. This team is scary. And outside of maybe Ohio State, nobody else really wants to play them. We keep it real with you. Nobody. You're going to have a dogfight on your hands and you might come out on the losing end of the whole thing. So let's look at Kalani Sitake. This is his 10th year at BYU, program builder, culture guy. And he's navigated their jump from independent to the Big 12 very well. Got him playing for the league title in year 2. Their reputation, because they got a freshman at quarterback in Bachmeier wearing number 47, which also throws off the eyeballs and the perception. Physical run game, play action, defense, opportunistic. They're not always elite athletically, but they are absolutely elite in every single category. They make up for it by smart, good, tough football play. Like Sitake has done everything right this season except beat Texas Tech. And that's a hill that he actually still has to climb to get his program to the next tier, which is to make the college football playoff this year. And Kalani Sitake is going to have to decide in this game whether he wants to shorten the game and play with his running back, LJ Morton, or does he trust Bear Bachmeier to trade haymakers with Barron Morton? And that gets us to the quarterback battle. Barron Morton versus Bear Bachmeier. Because Barron Morton over there at Texas Tech, he spent some time on the injured list, but still 2,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, 4 picks, 68% almost completions. And Tech, obviously, they have blown so many people out. Their backups have gotten plenty of yards and opportunities as well. So don't get undersold on how good Barron and this offense is just by looking at these numbers, because there was times missed and absolute blowouts. Because he's mobile enough as well. Almost 300 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. And has the ability to punish man coverage and extend plays. Last game against West Virginia, 25 for 32, 310, and 3 tutties in that 48-0 win. Stress-free dress rehearsal for this Big Ten title game. Now, Bear Bachmeier on the other side for BYU. This kid's a freshman, true freshman coming in. 2,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, almost 65%. Now, obviously, you're going to be a tad bit more conservative on a good football team with a young quarterback, but they are much more built around, balance and efficiency than just chucking and ducking bombs away. Because he runs more than you would think, because he's got 530 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. He's a red zone problem when plays break down, and he gives every opportunity for his team to be successful. Against UCF last week, 21 for 25, 289, and a touchdown. Incredibly efficient, and he helped BYU rally from a 14-0 being down to a 41-21 win. Come on, man. Morton is the better pure passer and is surrounded by deeper weapons with, Caleb Douglas, Virgil, and Carter, the rest of the crew. But Bear Bachmeier is more of a dual threat, a point guard, distributor. Parker Kingston, Chase Roberts, and then lean on LJ Martin. Now, this game, though, it is going to swing on. Can Bear Bachmeier stay in a clean pocket versus Texas Tech's ridiculous pass rush? And can they match Barron Morton's explosive plays? Or does this turn into a game where BYU needs 10 to 12 play drives and eventually blinks? Now, let's get to talking about Texas Tech's offense versus BYU's defense. Because Tech's offensive profile, 43 points per game, almost 500 yards per game, almost 300 yards passing, and almost 200 yards rushing. That is a top 5 nationally in terms of scoring and total offense. This is ridiculous. Over 51% conversions on third down, which is elite. That's not even good. That's elite. And they stay ahead of the sticks and rarely get behind the chains. Their running back, Cameron Dickey, over 1,000 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns, plus another 370 receiving. And then Jacoby Williams as well has another 700 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. So they can keep fresh legs on you. Caleb Douglas at wide receiver, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Wide receiver 1. Terrence Carter Jr., Reggie Virgil. Barron Morton has easy answers on RPOs and the quick game. But now on BYU side, they're only allowing 324 yards per game. That is top 3 in the Big 12. In terms of total defense, and they are strong against the run. And the one spot that you can really, get them is that the run game where they're giving up, over 150 yards a game. But that number is actually skewed by game scripts because they're on a per play basis. And BYU has playmakers. Their safeties, Satuala, 70 tackles and a sack, pass breakups, and Tanner Wall as well. These dudes are dogs. Isaiah Glasker, this team is full of very good pass rushers as well. Texas Tech in the last meeting hurt BYU, balanced offense, explosive plays off play action, and BYU zone coverage actually got stretched horizontally, and then Tech's running backs gashed them when they lightened the box out and they spread it out to stop the pass game. So that matchup is going to be a big one. Now, let's look at BYU's offense versus Texas Tech's defense, because BYU on offense, they are efficient. They score points, almost 34 points a game, over 400 yards per game. They are very balanced, almost equal between the run game and the pass game. And on the third down percentage, they are a solid 41, almost 42%. But they are much better when LJ Martin, their running back, gets rolling on early downs because he's rushed for over 1,200 yards this season, 11 touchdowns, and has over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns over his last 3 games coming back from injury. So this dude's an absolute dog. Then at wide receiver, you got Parker Kingston, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, a multi-purpose weapon, gadget plays, punt returns, everything in between. Then you got Chase Roberts and Carson Ryan at tight end. They give Bear Bachmeier chain-moving options. Now, Texas Tech's defense, they are the number 1 defense in the Big 12. Less than 260 yards allowed per game, about 4 yards per play, which is excellent, and giving up less than 100 rush yards per game. Now, their pass rush, though, they are nasty. David Bailey, he leads the nation in sacks. Then you got guys like A.J. Holmes, Jayden Cofield. They are going to help collapse the pocket as well. And you cannot forget about linebacker and possible Heisman finalist phenom Jacob Rodriguez. Over 100 tackles this season, 4 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles, 2 touchdowns as well on offense in a jumbo package. This dude is doing everything that you need to do to win. And then Bryce Pollock on defense as well, 5 interceptions, aggressive jumping routes. Now, to win this game, BYU is going to have to run the ball efficiently and with LJ Martin to be able to stay alive. If they become drop back heavy, Texas Tech pass rush is going to eat and they're going to turn the ball over. It will be a first meeting in repeat. Now, the interesting wrinkle is Bear Bachmeier's legs and that he is older now and more mature and seen more things because the design quarterback runs and in that option game, it might be the one place that BYU can actually stretch Tech horizontally and slow down that pass rush. Now let's talk about the X factors in this game. Red zone ruthlessness because this Tech team, they have been absolute demolishing teams with touchdowns and not field goals, especially early in games because their third down rate and over 43 points per game. If they go 4 for 5 on touchdowns in the red zone again, this game is going to get sideways. Now, for BYU, their X factor is turnovers and special teams because BYU is +6 in turnover margin this year, 12 gained versus only 6 lost, and they probably need to be +2 or better on Saturday because think Tanner Wall interception, strip sack, big Parker Kingston return that flips the momentum because if they just go even, Texas Tech's talent is going to and their depth is going to win out. Now, in this game, Texas Tech is a 13.5 point favorite. I am going to take Texas Tech, but not by 13.5 points. I believe that BYU finds a way to keep this game close. They're going to be fighting to keep their head coach, Kalani Sitake. And I'm going to take BYU to lose, but just not by as much as a lot of people thought. And the last game up, we got the ACC Championship. Nobody would have predicted this. Virginia versus Duke. Now, in this game, Virginia is only favored by 2.5 points to a 5-loss, 7-5 team. Everybody associated with the ACC has to be praying for Duke to lose this football game. Because if Duke wins and James Madison wins their game and Tulane wins, you're not going to see an ACC team in the college football playoff. Honestly, that might be what we need to get cataclysmic changes and to get the automatic qualifiers or whatever it is, a different system. Now, I don't want 24 teams. That's a whole nother story. This is a grown man Virginia team, and I got to give credit to their head coach, Tony Elliott, who people thought was going to be on the hot seat. And he was like, hold my beer, 10-2, ACC championship game, 7-1 in league, number 16 in the AP poll. It's only their second 10-win season since 1989. So he doing his thing. And Duke, 7-5, 6-2 in the ACC. They're unranked, but they are hot, and they have a quarterback, Darian Mensah, on their hands who is electric. Now, Virginia closed the season with wins against Washington State, UNC, Cal, They took a tumble versus Wake Forest and then strong wins at Duke and Virginia Tech. So, but Duke, they got back-to-back big offensive outbursts, including 46-45 at Clemson and then 49-32 at versus Wake Forest toward the end of the season. And you're like, maybe something is headed in the right direction here. But these coaches, Tony Elliott versus Manny Diaz. Tony Elliott is in his fourth year. He had a rough start, but now he has figured out this pro-style multiple offense, heavy use of motion, formations, and the defense is aggressive and disciplined. Then you got Manny Diaz, who's in his second year at Duke. They were 9-3 last year, but they didn't make the ACC Championship. But 16 wins in 2 seasons at Duke, at a place that historically doesn't live in that range, it is great. Manny Diaz's background is defense, but ironically in 2025, his defense has not been the calling card. They have just been a freeway to the end zone. Anybody can score, but they have been getting timely stops toward the end of the season. Now let's look at these quarterbacks. You got Chandler Morris over there at Virginia versus Darian Mensah. Now, Chandler has over 2,500 yards this season, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he's adding value with almost 250 rushing yards as well. This is a kid who can hurt you, but he's not going to put up huge stat numbers for the most time. It is going to be based upon efficiency, leadership, and finding a way to win games because he's confident. This is a kid who's transferred multiple times, and he knows that this is his shot. Now, Darian Mensah, on the other hand, he's got it an offense that has scored 30-plus in 8 games and 45-plus in 5 wins. So this is a highly explosive offense, and this kid does not turn the ball over very much. He finds a way to throw for a ton of yards, almost 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns to only 4 picks. We're talking about some of the best stats in the entire nation, and this is why their offense is able to do this. And at Clemson, he threw for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's absolutely balling. And at Wake Forest, he accounted for multiple scores and kept the offense going with 268 passing and 2 touchdowns. He's balling. So when I look at this game, I'm looking at a Virginia offense that is averaging 33 points a game, over 400 yards, mid 400s, 430, top 30 nationally. They're very balanced, almost 200 yards rushing per game as well to go with 240 passing. Kobe Pace, Paris Jones at running back, J.R. Wilson, Malachi Fields at wide receiver. These dudes they got a deep ball threat in Wilson and then a yards after the catch threat with Fields. This team has a shot. And now Duke's defense, though, they're allowing close to 30 points a game. And they have been particularly vulnerable through the air with their pass defense. And they've spent most of the year in the bottom half of the ACC. I have believed all season that chaos was coming and that Virginia's glass slipper would fall off at some point in time. I am going to take Duke plus 2.5 and for the win. You guys, thank you for watching. I'm George Wrighster. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, tell a friend about the show. Peace out. Enjoy the games this weekend and come back for the recaps on Saturday night.